Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today is about how to stop obsessing over someone, part 2. So if you haven't watched part 1, go watch it and then come back here. Because today I'm gonna give you 3 more psychology tips on how to stop being addicted and obsessing over that one person. We're gonna get right into it. 1 is if you're obsessing over someone, I'm gonna sound like your mother, but I don't care. You probably have too much free time. If the relationship realm is taking so much attention, energy, and focus from your life, it means your other realms, your other islands that are in your life, like friendships, jobs, personal goals, gym, reading, I don't know, whatever other islands you have in your life, are not as interesting, as intense as this one. So I would stop stressing over that person and start stressing over the fact that your life or my life is not interesting enough. And what can I do to make my life interesting? Why is this only island or realm of my life that is bringing me satisfaction, that is bringing me that, that spicy, that dopamine, that adrenaline, whatever? How can I make my other areas of my life interesting? So this is telling me that, you don't have goals that are meaningful, that you're pursuing every day, that you don't have passions, Because if your life was interesting enough, that person wouldn't take so much of your energy and time, because your energy would be distributed more equally towards other things. So start building a life that is more meaningful. And, I was in this situation myself, and this is why I'm giving you this piece of advice, because I know that when I was in university, for instance, or during my summer breaks, those were the most intense moments of obsession towards another person. Because once I got a job, once I started doing content, once I started getting into reading, working out, going to acting classes or doing more interesting things with my life, relationships, they were still an important part of my life, but they weren't the main focus of my life, like the main pillar and everything was spinning around them. It was like there are more pillars, and yes, relationships is an important one, but it's not the central one. It's somewhere there, and then friendships are there, and then my career is there, and content is there. And I would even invite you, like, take a piece of paper, like, let me just show you, like, take a piece of paper like this, yeah, and draw like more islands. This is you, for instance. Make a circle with you, and then write, like, draw lines, like, these are my relationships, this is my family, these are my friends, this is my career, working out, reading, painting, whatever passions you have. Okay, this will give you a better visualization of your life and how you distribute your energy, and maybe guide you towards a direction where to put more energy, for instance. Because maybe you have to invest more in your friendships, maybe you don't invest enough. Maybe I'm gonna make a video about how to have closer friendships, how to make friends, and so on, because I've noticed it's a common issue amongst my clients, like making friends, deep, meaningful connections. So that's why we place all of our needs on a certain person, on a partner, because our whole life is not like interesting and satisfying enough. So we place all of our needs on one person, which is not healthy. And this takes me to my second point, which is, again, if you're obsessing over someone, it means that you have an idealized version of love in your head. So, growing up is probably because of Disney movies and, I don't know, stories with princesses and princes and dragons, and I don't know what the reason is exactly, and Hollywood movies, but we have this idealized version of what a relationship is supposed to mean, of what love is supposed to mean. So many times people that end up obsessing over someone instead of actually being in a relationship are the kind of people that go for unavailable people, because their unavailability, hear me out, listen carefully, their unavailability gives you enough space and time to fantasize about the relationship instead of being in one, because being in one will destroy your fantasies and your unrealistic standards. Yeah, you can watch that again if you didn't hear me well, because it's really important. You know, for instance, many of us, I've seen this amongst my friends, I've seen this with clients, I've had that myself as well. Like, we have these rules when it comes to a relationship. Like, oh, they need to text me every morning, good morning, otherwise they don't love me. Or they need to take me out this many times a week. They need to never be late. They need to do this. They need to do that. Like, there are so many rules on how am I supposed to behave, like as a partner to them. How are they supposed to behave towards us? It's like kind of like this manual with rules that I don't know who it was written by, but I'm here to tell you, like, relationships don't have to look in a certain way. They don't have to be in a certain way, you know? Like, there is no book that says this is what relationships have to look like, you know? You make your own rules. And sometimes these rules that you already have, they make a relationship seem more like a concept than a real person, if that makes sense. So instead of you looking at your boyfriend or girlfriend as a real person, you see them as a concept. Are they doing the right thing? Are they not? So you spend all of your time analyzing the relationship, like what are they doing right, what are they doing wrong, instead of actually living, you know, instead of actually living in the relationship, being there, being present, and so on, doing whatever you feel. For instance, you might feel like, I know that if I text them good morning, they're gonna feel good, so that's why I do it. Or I know if I'm gonna say this or wear this or do that during intercourse, you know, they're gonna like it. But you don't do things because you actually want to or feel like doing so. So if you identify with these things, try first of all taking a step back from all of these rules, fantasies about what a relationship is supposed to look like, and start looking at real life, like what's actually going on, and start just focusing on what you feel. What does it feel like? What do I feel like doing, you know? Instead of acting out of, I know this is the correct way, because there is no correct way to do things, you know? And like, if you kind of accept reality and that, you know, relationships are not like this unicorn fairy tale where the person has to be your everything and give you everything, and maybe start seeing them as like a close friendship, you know, like a really close friendship. Of course, you get intimate with them and so on, but in the same time, like for instance, with a friend, you don't expect them to meet all of your needs. You don't expect them to text you good morning every morning. You know, if they cancel like a meeting, you know, you won't say, oh, they don't care about, I mean, you might, and then maybe you should work on that a little bit. But in general, we don't have such high standards and expectations for our friends, you know? So, you know, try to see relationships more like a friend. So practice doing that for maybe a month, you know, maybe a few weeks. Like, just give up all of your beliefs that you thought that this is what relationships are supposed to look like, and start actually experiencing them, letting yourself do whatever you feel like, instead of thinking, oh, they should text me maximum, I don't know, 24 hours after the date, otherwise I block them, or whatever rules you might have in your head. Like, just let yourself be free of these rules and do whatever you feel like, okay? And number 3, let's finish with this topic. And number 3 is, if you're obsessing over someone, as a life coach, I would go into your childhood to see, why do you have this obsessive dopaminergic personality that is always kind of looking for dopamine? Because what is obsession? If you go to my first video, I explained it thoroughly, what obsession means and why it's created and so on. But to give you like a summary, obsession is desire for something that you don't currently have, but you have the hope that you're going to get it, right? So this is on the dopamine system, right? This is people that have a dopaminergic personality, they're always looking for more. They're never satisfied with what they have. The moment you get what you want, you get bored of it. You don't want it anymore. This is the dopamine people, the dopaminergic people. You need to start focusing more on molecules like serotonin, oxytocin that make you present in the here and now. Okay, so obviously you've heard these theories. You're probably not watching your first psychology video like for the first time in your life. You know how our parents influence our relationships as adults. We see how our parents interacted and how they interacted with us. So for instance, if you saw your parents being extremely intense in their relationship, then you will look for people that are very intense with you in your relationships, right? If they were fighting a lot, then you'll get bored of people that are healthy or that don't really fight. You'll say there's no spice, there's no chemistry. And for you, chemistry, because it's just the trauma response actually, is fighting or, having that adrenaline, that anxiety all the time, right? So I would go back to your childhood. You can do this by yourself as well. And kind of connect to that inner child. I don't want you to ruminate so much on what did my mom do, what did my dad do. It's good to have an overview and to understand generally where this is coming from, but I don't want you to live in the past, right? I want you to connect to that inner child inside of you. You can do this through meditations, visualizations, journaling, get a life coach if you don't know how to do it by yourself, and just connect to that inner child. And, maybe close your eyes, go to that part of you, that is feeling anxious or that is feeling obsessed, that has that intense desire, and ask them, like, what do you actually need? What do you actually need? Because if you come from an unhealthy childhood parenting style, if your childhood was in a toxic environment, and if you, as a consequence, have these obsessions with people, because I'm saying people for a reason. I'm sure this is not the first person you're obsessed with, because people that have an obsessive personality, they have obsessions towards more people throughout their life, Go back to your childhood and see, what are my unsatisfied childhood needs? How can I become my own loving parent and satisfy these needs by myself? So, for instance, if your parents were very tough with you and critical and were putting a lot of pressure on you, let's say, right? You probably do that with yourself as well, because our parents' voice becomes our internal voice growing up. It becomes that voice in our head that says, oh, you're stupid, why did you do that? You should do more, you're not doing enough, all this negative self-talk. So focus on kind of visualize that whenever you're talking like that, you're talking to your inner child actually. You're not talking to the adult self, you're talking to that little boy or that little girl inside of you, and you're hurting them. You genuinely are, because our inner child is an emotional part of us that comes out, for instance, even when you're obsessing over someone, it's not you as an adult, it's that inner child inside of you that is actually obsessing, that is projecting all of their needs and all of their fantasies of a good relationship or what that would have meant for them in their childhood on the other person. So you're basically kind of taking this inner child and giving them to another person to take care of them instead of you taking care of them yourself. So, try connecting to them. And this is different for everyone, but in the same time, we do have the same needs, the basic needs, like the need for love, the need for acceptance, validation, safety, big one, safety, make your inner child feel safe. And for instance, this can be done through many ways. Like maybe there was something in your childhood that you always wanted to do or you never got a chance to, take yourself to that place and do it now, So try taking care of your inner child and meeting all of these needs yourself instead of going to the other person. Because if you're doing that, you'll always be looking for more. A person, even if you get in a relationship with a person, that will never truly satisfy you, if that makes sense. You will always feel that emptiness, that hole inside of you, and you'll just go from person to person, never really finding that center, that fulfillment, that safety, because only you can give it to yourself. Okay, so this was part 2 of how to stop obsessing over someone. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me your experience in the comments. I read the comments, even if I don't reply to them. Let me know, be sure that I do read them. So write your experience, write any questions that you might have or any proposals for future videos. I'm open to those. And go follow me on Instagram because I'm trying to grow my account, and YouTube is going amazing. I've been getting a lot of subscribers, and I also want to grow my Instagram account. So go follow me on Instagram. I post almost daily, so you'll get a lot of psychology tips and tricks from me. Lots of love. Bye.